Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today, hopefully this is going to be a bit of fun. It's going to be spiritual and so hopefully also meaningful and so forth. But my main aim in this is to have a bit of fun. And the inspiration for it, I'm always looking for different ways of looking at topics. And one of the topics I do quite often is, your spiritual path, your spiritual gifts, that sort of thing. Always looking for different ways to kind of enter that particular question. And I just recently bought a new tarot called the Tabletop Tarot, which you can see three of the really gorgeous cards from it there. And what's really unique and interesting about this is it's sort of like the Rider-Waite-Smith energy, sort of symbolism, that kind of thing, but depicted in the kind of fantasy world of sort of role-playing games, tabletop games, that kind of thing. So it's got that kind of energy, but still depicting the sort of spiritual journey and life energies that the tarot has. And so I thought, what a wonderful idea to look at your spiritual gifts and your spiritual journey and who you are spiritually, almost as though it was an avatar in one of those games. So if you were going into a game, what would be your avatar? What would be your personality? What would be the gifts that you went in with? What would be the challenges that you would meet in that game? What would be your new gifts? And who would you be at the end of the game? So it's sort of like if you actually could go in and really live a spiritual battle within there, or discover a spiritual secret, or whatever it might be that you're doing, how might that play out? And I think that's a really cool way to look at your spiritual gifts and your spiritual journey, but, kind of a fun way as well, and really in accordance with the kind of feeling of this deck. So it's a celebration of the new deck, which I really love, and also you in terms of your spirituality. So as usual, I've got some cards that have been intuitively shuffled underneath these cards. I don't know what they are, which will help set the scene of what your spiritual avatar is. What would you go in as? Then we're going to look at the journey with the tarot, and then we're going to have a look at sort of aspects around your current skills as you go in, the challenges and the new skills and the new energies and the new guides, all that kind of thing, and the stars that guide you through those various stages, and where you come out at the end. So that's going to be the journey. What I asked Spirit for was, I said, I'm going to shuffle 3 times, and each time the first major arcana card that comes out will be the way in, will be part of what that avatar energy is, to make it easy for you to choose. Of course, you can go to more than one if you want, as always. There could be messages across more than one for some of you. What I found really interesting with this is that often when I do shuffle and do a major arcana thing, it might take 3 or 4 cards for me to reach a major arcana, but every single time I shuffled and the first card that came out was major arcana. So I almost got the sense Spirit's quite excited about this. Thinks this is really fun, so it's really stepping forward. So for pile number 1, the card that came out was Justice. For pile number 2, the Wheel of Fortune, and for pile number 3, the Hermit. So if you feel particularly drawn to one or more of those, that will help you know which reading or readings to go to. But when you know which ones you want to go to, or which one you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below as always, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the reading with Justice. We have 2 Wild Unknown Wild Unknown archetype cards, and also some other archetype cards, just to try and get a sense of what your spiritual avatar is as you go into the game of your spiritual quest. There is a 3rd Wild Unknown Alchemy, I don't know why I keep saying that, archetype card. There might be something about that actually. Looking at this, it might be something alchemical. I think that Spirit sometimes makes me do Freudian slips, so to speak, and looking at some of the energy, particularly this over here, and the balance and this energy, I think there might be something almost alchemical about you. So, but it's archetypes we're dealing with here. So there's an archetype at the end, which I don't know what that is, but that's going to be the kind of outcome of this spiritual journey, this spiritual stage in your quest, in your journey, in your gathering of skills, all of that kind of thing. So firstly, Justice to me very much says that you have a cause. You could be in this stage of your life, you could work in some sort of a cause, like it could be your job, politically, socially, legally, all of those things could be the case. And if that's the case, it's like you take that type of energy into your spiritual approach to, and you bring a spiritual approach to that sort of thing. But if that's not what you do, I think there's something about you where your spiritual thing is about balance, about fairness, and about shifting energy towards what it needs to be to heal. So it's almost, I feel like your avatar is almost like a top-class barrister in this spiritual court, let's put it that way, that goes in after major change, or is really really getting to the depths of things. There's a lot of depth here, which we'll talk about, to have a breakthrough on something that is wrong, something that needs to be brought back into balance, something that needs to be defended. So I think you have a tendency in one way or other in your life and spiritually to defend those who are subject to things outside their control or subject to things that are out of balance. And having done that energy, you actually bring a healing at the same time. So it's sort of like you're almost like underneath the armor of the incredible barrister is also a sort of energetic healer energy as well. So I think you go into situations to help people who are not as able as you to deal with the storm, to deal with all that is sort of breaking down. It's a very tower-like card. So you can go into that, very, very sharp intellect, very, very clear idea about what is right and wrong, very true to that, very, very ethical. And it gives you a kind of an armor, literally, to be in the midst of chaos and to eventually heal and help and bring things back into balance. And this could play out, as I say, could play out in your career, could play out in relationships. You know, your actual spiritual path might be about guiding and mentoring people away from a sense of calamity, chaos, and a lack of clarity into the clarity that the healing energy brings. Very, very wise, deep psychological energy to this. Scorpio is very, very deep around understanding people, understanding emotional issues, a little bit of high magic potentially thrown in as well too, but certainly a sort of sense of being able to see to the core of things and to be able to look into the storm. Probably of all the signs, Scorpio is the most attuned to a storm energy, to be frank. We have the crone, which says there's a lot of wisdom here. Doesn't mean you have to be old. You just have a lot of wisdom. But you're almost like a freelance energy as well too. I feel like you move around a lot, like whether literally like you move around in where you live and so forth, or you come to do something. You come to find the way through and find the balance in the storm for people, heal that energy, and then you move on. What you don't want and you will not tolerate is a dependency on you. So you'll go, okay, I'm coming in, I'll understand this at a deep level, I'll look into the eye of the storm, I'll understand it, I'll bring some wisdom to bring balance. And then once the healing has occurred, I'm moving on. You don't stay. It's a bit like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf comes and helps Frodo or whatever. At the end, it's not like Gandalf's always going to be around Frodo. It's like it's when it's necessary and then moves on. That's the sort of energy of you. And as I say, you bring clarity. But what you don't want to do, and I think part of the healing is around this, is you don't want to create a situation where you have to be then the final arbiter on everything. I feel like you're more a barrister than a judge. So it's not like you're sort of sitting then in grand state at the end telling everybody what to think. You're actually arguing a case, bringing wisdom to others, healing a situation and moving on. So you're kind of almost not a spiritual mercenary, because this is actually very ethical and very focused on healing. But there is sort of something here where you are there for a time and then you move on. So we'll have that kind of energy, I think, around the reading for you. Around you would be going into this because there is a storm. The opening stages of your role-playing game around this would be something is chaotic, and that's drawn you because you can understand it and withstand it, and then it's how you help other people to get the clarity. So let's ask a little bit more about just your avatar, who you are. Then let's ask what key attributes and skills you're bringing at this point as you enter it, and then what kind of growth for you is there, because I think there's a lot of growth for others in this, but what kind of growth for you is there? And then we're going to really have a look at some of the characteristics and where they are, what you've got, what challenges you, and also what you gain out of it. But firstly, just a little bit more about you. Like, what is you are like a spiritual barrister, a change agent, and a healer. What else? Queen of Swords reversed. Three of Wands reversed, Two of Wands reversed. This is very the gypsy soul, I think, actually. Ace of Wands reversed, it's interesting. Five of Swords, yeah, okay. This is probably saying more about what we've already talked about, but like looking at the energy. You don't take any prisoners. Honestly, you don't. If anything, you might be a bit scary to people. Scorpio can be a bit scary. Queen of Swords, can also be a bit scary if it's reversed, even when it's upright. You're very clear. And you look at things in an unflinching way. Like what I feel about this is, there are, in a spiritual sense, there are some people who say, I can't look at, what's going on in the world or whatever, because, that's just getting into low vibration. I'm not doing it. You're able to do that. You're one of those people who has that resilience, and you look at it very critically. Like you come in to assess a situation and then to present an argument. But what you aren't doing is what you're doing with this is you're assessing a situation. What you do is you assess the situation from a number of perspectives, from like the psychological perspective, the wisdom of spirituality, but also free will. So you do come in critically, and you may come across to some people as critical. But what you're trying to do is make sure that you understand all the aspects of it, the different parties involved, and the choices they have, but not make the choices for them. So if you were literally, again, a barrister, you would be sitting down with your client, let's put it that way, and saying, what is the outcome you want? What are your non-negotiables? Where do you want to be with this? Not where I think you should be, but where do you want to be? So you're very, very into the depth psychology of it, understanding how people have come to this. And as I say, for some, you may come across as a bit abrasive, but you are doing it because the last thing you're going to do is create dependency. You think that what you're trying to uncover and help them uncover in the midst of the storm is what is the creative potential in the midst of the storm. They get past the storm and they move towards what creative or sort of passion potential are they not following, so that they open up their gypsy heart as well too. And then you're gone. You go, that's it, I've done it. I've done what I needed to do, I'm gone. You are not going to, and this doesn't mean you abandon your friends or anything like that, but it is saying that around this sort of thing, you don't create a dependency. So in the game, you would come in, you would do what was necessary, and you would disappear. You might come back if things sort of are necessary, but at this point, you would be there and gone. You would be a very pivotal character that causes change, clarity, and healing, and then you would be gone. I don't think, in a way, in this thing, you're the main character for the story, but you are an incredibly important character for the story. And that doesn't mean you can't be the main character in your own life. But I think the kind of storyline, the role that you would have in something like this is as I say, a bit like Gandalf, any of those things, a bit like Merlin with Arthur. Like the person who brings the wisdom in, the clarity in, and has the power to withstand it, but doesn't then stay to be the boss. That's the kind of energy. So what key attributes and skills do you have, does your avatar have as you go into this, and so this is meant to be kind of like a simulation of where you're at the moment. So it would suggest that there's something in your spiritual realm coming up where you're going to help people in this sort of way. So what key attributes do you have? Wheel of Fortune reversed, Judgment reversed. Yeah, a lot of this you do under the surface. The Star reversed. Wow, boy, you're powerful. Six of Cups reversed. Yeah. You do work on clarity and on critique and bringing things up to the surface, but it's very wise and hidden. You would not show yourself except to those that you really were trying to help. Unless you were literally arguing a case, say in a law court or something like that, but it's very much other person centered. You can tell when the wheel is moving into this energy. You have whether it's prophetic or whether it's just a very good instinct for the energies around. When something is going into the downturn, when things is going into chaos, you know ahead of time. So you may even bring yourself into this before the chaos occurs, and you make some connections with people so that then you can help. But you really do have a sense of when things are coming. You also know the limitations of what your calling is here. So you're very wise. This is the crone. You don't feel I'm coming in to become the new boss. This is the new person who leads. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to uncover for other people what their calling is and how they would deal with it. And it's interesting because it's like your spiritual avatar. at least for the moment. It may not be all the time. It may be just what's coming up with Judgment Reverse. Is this may be using skills that you don't always use spiritually, but are going to be necessary now. Because with Judgment Reverse and the Star Reverse, I feel like at the very least, it's like you do not make yourself too visible. You are not the center of this. Part of your strength is your sort of self-actualized knowledge. You don't have to be the center of it. This is not your story. You are helping others with their story. But I also feel like it's like almost a set of skills you have, which every once in a while this becomes your story and you go and do it. But in other parts, you actually are more you. And it may even be for many of you in this set of readings that it's good to go to another one of them, because it may be that this is the one right now and this is why you've been drawn into it, and this is something you go in and out of as a gypsy soul, but there might be sort of something that is your spiritual path for you. But I feel like you're able to detach and not make it about you, and you're not sentimental. Like, you're not, there's a healing energy, but your healing energy is not the, oh, here, let me give you a warm hug. Your healing energy is like, wake up to what's actually going on, understand how to like navigate this, and then claim your own victory and claim your own healing. That's what you do. It's tough love, but it's healing. It is definitely healing, but it's not, I'm going to be your best friend forever and always here and your sidekick. It's not that energy. Like you're like a kind of a instigating force. At least, and as I say, maybe this happens a few times in your life and there's another main story, but right now this is what's going on. So what skills are supposed to be born in you as a result of doing this? Temperance, the Lovers Reverse. This is interesting. The Nine of Pentacles Reverse. Okay, all right. Why this isn't your ultimate story, though you may come in and out of this, is that part of this journey for you, and it's healing for you as well as for others. This is the irony of it. You haven't gone into it thinking this is for you, but there is something for you. There is sort of something here where you're so good and you're so strong at this, and you do what is necessary, but it's out of balance for yourself. You've actually maybe repressed your own calling to always be fighting for others. And some of the clarity, because it is a bit full on, you are going to need to nuance for people to be able to hear it. So, and you need to connect more with people because of that. And it may well be that this is inviting you to think, are there some people in this situation that you don't walk away from? Not that you would create a dependency, but that your relationship shifts as well from being the champion who comes in for the period of time that's necessary and then moves on to being someone that there's a longer term connection with. So that's interesting. So okay. So let's have a look at what are the gifts or whatever that are operating here. What are the kind of mythical energies, and then also what are the guides? So the gifts, what we're going to do is we're going to get around spiritual gifts, we're going to get a current spiritual gift, we're going to get a challenge, so a spiritual gift or energy that comes at you that is a challenge in this, that you either have to overcome or you have to develop in yourself. And then we're going to look at a key gift that develops as a result of it. We're going to do the same thing around mythical energy. We're going to do the same thing around guides. So firstly, a current spiritual gift that you have that would help you in this game, or would help you in its sort of version that you're actually living in your life. Sacred Heart. There's a purity to this. As I say, you come from a very pure place. Now, the thing about purity is that it doesn't take any opposition. It doesn't take any, it's not a nuanced place in a way. It's very pure, it's very true. So what you're seeing is very pure and very true, and you come from a very good place. And you come from a sense that this is sacred. So you really do see this as cosmic justice, divine justice, as much as anything else. That is important. But I do think it's interesting in that it's almost a little bit, it fits in a way with this gypsy soul. In a way, those who are into the sacred space, in spiritual energies, often separate out from others. So I think you come in with this sort of sacred energy, very divinely connected. Very, very connected to divine justice. And that is important for this. But let's see what you're going to meet in this role play game. When your avatar is going to meet an avatar who's maybe the one who's wanting the chaos, or the one who's wanting to manipulate the outcome, your kind of opposite number. What are you meeting through this? Wow, astrology. It's someone who understands people really well too. You understand people really well. You do it kind of instinctively. You do it through channeling, wisdom, past life energy. The person who you're dealing with understands people really well too. They understand it within a system. So I think that yours is very intuitive and connected to divine source. Theirs is almost scientific. Now, like some people would argue astrology isn't scientific, but in the continuum of spiritual gifts, things like astrology, numerology, or whatever do have a system to them that is a little bit more. It does have intuitive elements, but it's more set. The planets mean certain things, and transits, aren't you can't make them mutable. You can't go, we were going to have Mars square Pluto, but we're not going to because we don't want that anymore. We're going to shift the heavens. It doesn't work that way. Mars is square Pluto, or whatever it might be. So you're dealing with systems of knowledge that are around psychology that kind of may be arguing with the purity of what you do. Again, it feels very much like being in a courtroom, actually, because if you're a higher order barrister who understands what's going on with this, you're dealing with another high order barrister who's very scientific, here are the facts, here's the time frames, here's the timelines, whereas yours is more of the heart. So that's the energy you've got to deal with. It's like the system that you deal with. And people who are also knowledgeable like you. So then let's see, what is the skill that you develop, particularly in this sort of phase of your spiritual path? Respect. Okay, I think this has got a double meaning. I think the first meaning is that you actually, the skill that you have is to actually teach this energy the respect for the divine, because this sort of looks like sort of worship to a higher power. So I think you in this debate kind of take the moral high ground rather than the psychological high ground, and you teach respect. So you find how to bridge that gap with those who are more psychological rather than spiritual. That's number one. But I also think that you get more of a respect for something like this as well. Or there is a respect that operates for the people that you are championing, because I feel like in this, you eventually find that some of the people that you feel, I have to look after these people, there's something they do. Like there's something in all of this, as when there's a challenge around the psychology, they rise to the occasion about going towards the sacred rather than just psychology. And I think you find respect which has a connection to others in a way that you didn't have before. So that's very interesting. So then what mythological energy is there and advice? So again, the mythological energy around you, if we were to describe your avatar, when you sort of enter this game, so where you are now before you're helping people with whatever this chaotic situation is the Nemean lion. Gratitude, be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Yeah, there's a kind of inherent thing in here. What Spirit's saying to you is that you feel, and it is true, you are going to help these people. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of purity, a lot of divine justice, all that stuff. You are going to help them get through the chaos, and you are going to heal them. There's no doubt. But this is going to shift you, because it's not just you coming in to be the champion. It's changing you as well. Nemean lion is also incredibly strong. So you go in with an incredible strength. So I think that's the other thing to know. You are very, very strong. And what this is telling me, this is almost a subtext that you're used to doing that. It's not that you're looking down on the people that you help, because you're actually very, very clear about the fact that once it's done, you're releasing them to do what they should always do and to self-actualize. But there is almost a sense like you're there for the victims. And I think you actually start to realize that the victims have sort of strengths or whatever that you hadn't thought in this situation. So let's see the mythological energy that goes along with this system, this almost scientific system, or this other way of looking at psychology and so forth, that the challenge is for you. Harpy, change. To change your life, you have to change yourself. To change yourself, you have to change your mindset. So I do think you might change the mindset of some of these people a bit. I think that's part of it. They will come out of this respecting it, but there's also you changing your mindset. There's something going on here about some ideas about this that shift. And these ones, they harp on, they're noisy, they make a noise. That's what harpies do. So it agitates you towards it. It agitates the people you're helping towards something. It also agitates you towards understanding why this is a piece you needed to see, and the understanding of the people was a piece you need to see. So then also with the outcome, with the kind of mythological energy that you come out with this at the end. Chimera, gentleness. It's not how others make us feel that is important in life, but rather how we make others feel. Yeah, this is a sort of like there's new relationships that come out of this. It's something you don't expect. And the healing is for you as well. And it's something that you would not have recognized when you went in, because chimera are kind of illusory beings that are made of all different parts of things. You know, lion's head, here we see wings or whatever. It's kind of like it's a fantastical beast that you wouldn't have even believed existed. There is something here where there's true relationships that you didn't expect to have are going to come in and are going to connect you more with people as a result of this. And yeah, you're not doing anything wrong, as I say, with the other sort of energy of it. That's not what's going on. It's just that this is a bit of a surprise for you as well. So let's see the angels or other sort of guide energies, both that when you go in, what's helping the challenger to you, and what do you bring in as an outcome. So when you go in, Goddess Kuan Yin, compassion, okay. She's connecting to the divine heart. So you do care. You are a healer. It's just that you've got a very full-on, just the facts type of energy, and you're very, very strong. But I think she's coming in right at the beginning because she can sort of see the outcome. She wants you to also kind of have a divine sort of connection that you know, connects you to people and so forth as well. But certainly divine mercy, divine justice. That makes sense. The energy that might be supporting the challenge for you. Wow, Archangel Metatron, spiritual power, esoteric wisdom. So yeah, the sacred geometry. These people are not, in this game, you're dealing with people who really know their stuff spiritually and within systems again. They're also incredibly good storytellers because Metatron is the scribe of the divine. So they know, like, again, if you really look at it like being a barrister, whether you are or not, they're really good at getting up and you know, saying their piece, and they have really good structures and arguments and all of that kind of thing. And they are spiritually advanced. This is not a kind of a challenger that is easy. So it's knowing that. And I think it's kind of, but the thing about Metatron is that he is with the divine in the Kabbalah, he's in Keter, so that he's they're removed as well. Like, you're both kind of removed, and in fact you're coming in with a little bit more compassion. This one's very calculating. It's not necessarily bad, but calculating. And so it's good that you're coming in with the more divine sort of energy. So what is the guide that will help you as you come out of this, as you sort of like take this to the next level, for whatever your next spiritual path or spiritual game would be? Archangel Michael, clarity, truth, protection. You're always going to be a fighter. That's not going to shift. But I think this is understanding a bit of a shift in the role in a way. There's something in this, not only that connects you more with people, which opens up that compassion than maybe what you'd thought before. I mean, you think you've always cared about people. It's not that you're cold, but I feel like what your true battle is, you learn through this approach. You learn that you shouldn't be alone with it. But this is really fighting for right. It's almost, I feel like you go from, I'm going to look for I'm going to have this side of me come out when I see chaos, and I'm trying to bring people to some clarity and harmony and heal them, into, I've actually learnt what my battle is. I've learnt something about what the powers that are colder actually and less, they're very calculating and human. I know what my battle is now. So that's kind of interesting as well. All right. So let's get some stars to guide you. And then we're going to see what is the archetype at the end of the game that you most manifest. So firstly, we have Venus. Yeah, love is really important in this. You may even find love, some of you, as a result of this. But love is as important as kind of the divine sacred truth. Sextile. For all that this person is, you know, there are issues around, this person is strong and knowledgeable, this is relatively easy for you. Relatively easy. And square, yeah, that's why I feel relatively. There are some things that are Very simple and easy. There are some things that are calling you to action and a shift. The guiding light should always be Venus. What is coming from the heart? Because the person that you're dealing with, or the people that you're dealing with, an organization, whatever it might be, is not of the heart. It's very scientific or intellectual, and very much into a narrative, to propaganda potentially, depending upon what it is. And it's a call to action. A lot of it you're going to be supported with as long as you come from your heart. I think Kuan Yin is very important here. Okay, so let's see. What archetype do you manifest at the end of this particular game? The mother. Wow. Okay. So, firstly, there is definitely something here about you finding relationship and people not being alone anymore, or if you've only thought this was about sort of helping people and not staying with them, there is a more longer term nurturing thing. There is something about this where you are by nature a gypsy soul and you don't want to have dependency, but you're going to find something in this where the connections with the people are more to do with a bigger battle that you have, and you want to nurture it. So I don't think you're going to walk away this time, actually. I think you normally do. I don't think you're going to this time. And I think that the archetype energy here is the connection with others, a kind of a sense of family, a sense of nurturing, a sense of bringing something new in, having the cause rather than just a sort of sense of how to bring order out of chaos, so to speak. It's actually more, now what do we grow? So there's a very profound, big shift that goes on for you. And it's not that you were doing anything wrong. It may well be that was exactly the right thing to do until this particular issue, where you understand the extent of the challenge and how much you care about the people. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that it resonates for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Wheel of Fortune. What we have here is a couple of Wild Unknown Archetype decks. Cards from the Wild Unknown Archetype deck. And we have got some cards from a broader archetype deck that I have. This is just meant to give a bit of a description of your avatar, your spiritual avatar, as you go into the game, the next step in your spiritual path, so to speak. We have a third Wild Unknown Archetype card, which is going to be right at the end of the reading, which is what you developed through this particular game to have. I can tell right now this is going to be very interesting. I have to say the Wheel of Fortune is a very interesting avatar to go in with, because it suggests that there is a very clear understanding of the tides of life, about when things are rising, and you are on the rise. I would say going into this, you are on the rise spiritually. But you're also very, very aware that things can fall as well. So my feeling is that your spiritual archetype is wise, an old soul, as it says here, and you know that sometimes you rise and everything is wonderful, and other times you can actually fall and become a victim. And there's sort of something here about understanding at a very core, natural level what you create, and how what you create in itself probably makes the difference between whether the wheel moves towards becoming famous, being really successful, being out in the world, or whether being a victim. A really strong energy I got when I put those cards out, I've got to say, is Marilyn Monroe. Like I just sort of felt, you've got this sort of person who became incredibly famous, but was also a victim of her own fame. I don't know, I don't know a lot about her spiritually, whether she would have been an old soul, but I kind of get that energy. And I feel it's like you have had, both in this life and in other lives of great fortune, renown, being famous, and lives where quite the opposite happened. So you're kind of aware when you go into the arbitrariness of something. You're bringing in that wisdom, and what you're looking at is something that's very natural to you or natural to the situation that you're in, how it's at a very early stage, and how you nurture the better outcome here so that it's not a victim. There's sort of something like that going on. So I feel like you've got a new project, a new love, could be a child, it could be pregnant, it could be anything, but there's a sort of a sense you really do understand how much one has. I feel like this animal energy feels really protective. Feels like there's animal guides around, very, very protective. But I feel like that's the thing. It's protecting something precious against the tides of fate. Understanding that, you could one minute be on top of the world, and other times in the opposite, and that there's nothing intrinsic unless you kind of like really read situations and read an environment well to stop either from occurring. Like it either could occur. Like it's not like anybody's absolutely destined to be famous and wealthy or whatever, or destined to be a victim. Either could happen. And so you've got to protect something. It's almost like fate is not all, the universe is almost a bit ambivalent, or it's a bit indifferent, not caring, but it has bigger arcs of I often say around your soul. Your soul knows that a lifetime that's difficult is probably just as valuable to your spiritual development as a life that is sumptuous and luxurious. So your soul kind of doesn't care. And so on a broader level, the universe doesn't care on that level. So it's really up to you and like how you understand the nature of things and how you protect that which is precious. That's what I think we're looking at here. So let's find out a little bit more with tarot, firstly about your actual avatar itself. Then we're going to have a look at what key attributes and skills you've got at the moment that have brought you to this position. And then what will come to you as you progress. So a little bit more about the actual avatar itself. The Emperor reversed, the Ace of Pentacles, there's definitely something to protect. The King of Swords, Seven of Wands reversed, Queen of Pentacles reversed. Yeah, there's something very natural. There's something in the material world that's going on here. A child, a project, a business, with all the sort of Pentacles energy and like the Emperor reversed. You've got something precious. There's something very unique about you actually, in your nature, something precious that does need to be protected. And it's something that you could be famous for. And it comes with a lot of wisdom. But it's the same thing that in either earlier in this life or in other lives has made you a victim. So an example again, apart from like the Marilyn Monroe becoming that famous that then other things made her a victim, it could be, you have a natural witchcraft or magic tendency, and that could have been very powerful for you in certain lives, but in other lives maybe you ended up sort of in the Salem witch trials or something. There's something like you experienced both, you've tasted both, and your nature knows that there's something to protect now. There's something here about illegitimate power, protecting that which is precious from illegitimate power, having a righteous view, being really clear on what's going on. And it's like you almost have to hide away to protect the thing. Like this is not going out and battling something. This is like finding refuge. That's the kind of energy. It's like in this game, the best thing you could do spiritually to protect whatever is precious is to be able to hide it away, is to be able to get a bit invisible until, whatever the risk of victimization has passed by. And you need to be clear about that. So if it's something of yours, you need to find the way to protect it and preserve it from illegitimate power. If it's something external to you that you are trying to protect and help others, it's like you do stand guard, but you are hiding something away. The other energy this makes me think of is, like if you were Zeus's wife, Hera, not Zeus's wife, sorry, not Zeus's wife, Hera, no, it's Kronos Kronos's wife, Rhea, actually, so the parents of Zeus and Hera, because Kronos thought his children were he had a prophecy that his child was going to take over his power, and so he would eat every one of the children. So Rhea had to trick him, and she put Zeus away and put in swaddling clothes a rock, and he swallowed that, so that Zeus eventually was able to rise and fulfill the prophecy. It's almost like something like that. I'm just trying to look at analogies because it's an interesting thing. You are kind of standing guard either for yourself or for others, but you've either got to hide yourself away or something precious away because there is some illegitimate power going on. So what skills are particularly good as you go into this in your with this spiritual quest to protect this precious thing so it can grow safe and become what it's meant to become, in whatever that means? Page of Wands, Death, Eight of Cups reversed, Knight of Pentacles reversed. Okay. So again, I feel a lot of this has kind of connection to past lives for you, which is probably why we got Old Soul. What I think this is saying is that what you brought in, And also things from this life. You're very creative. So there's something very creative about this. It's very likely for many of you this is some creative project or something like that has to be protected from the powers that be until it's ready to be launched. But, it could be anything. You're very creative. You know when to make decisions. You don't muck around. You've got the wisdom of the old soul to do that, and you have a really finely tuned idea about where the wheel is turning. You also do not give up. But you remember some time where your loyalty maybe was tested and you felt like you didn't do it, or somebody else's loyalty was tested and they didn't come through. And in fact, for some of you, this may be, say for argument's sake, you had a creative project and there was a time when you trusted in someone, some person in the industry or a collaborator to do something. You've got a very clear idea that you can't necessarily rely on others, but you're not going to let go. You're going to stand firm. So you're going in with this sort of sense of, I'll make the decisions that are necessary, reading the tea leaves, so to speak. I will make sure the creative fire is there, and I'm not going to give up, but I also know I can't necessarily rely on other people. So what particular skills and powers are coming to you as you progress through this particular part of your spiritual path and this game, so to speak? 9 of Pentacles. The World, King of Pentacles, reverse. There's something in this, it really does feel like, like protecting the future king, or queen. It has that sort of feeling. It feels like this is something precious that will overturn something illegitimate, and you will really start to learn and see that what you develop is an understanding of when that's happened and when you can move away and stop protecting it, when you can be free. This is like a sworn oath. It's almost like you sort of came into this life, and there was a point where you were going to protect something very precious from illegitimate power, and the gift coming out of it, the gifts you have, is to understand that you've freed yourself from that you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. So it's almost as though by and large, you already have all the gifts you need for it. So we are going to be looking at what develops, but it's more that being able to enact this part of it, which is a decision to say, now it's done, now it's complete, now I can let go. But yeah, protecting the future king or queen, protecting a future project from, having its IP stolen. There's something like that going on. So let's have a look at the progression. So what we're going to do, we're going to start first with spiritual gifts, and we're going to look at a spiritual gift that you have now. We're going to look at the spiritual gifts of the challenger. So this will be this energy. And then we'll also look at what spiritual gifts you develop as a result. Then we're going to have a look at mythical power energies in each of those 3, and we're also going to look at guides in each of those 3. So just to get a sort of sense of the trajectory of what's going on. So the skill, one of the kind of magical spiritual skills that your avatar has going into this is learn. Okay, you can learn and take in energy. Yeah, you do. You learn. You don't have to be shown something twice. You're an old soul. You've learned what creates a victim, and you've learned what creates a star. You do that, and it's become second nature to you. You're also learning, like there's the sort of like the seed of life. You know, and you're learning something about how to protect something precious. But one of your really big skills is someone only has to burn you once. You do not let them make you or anybody you're caring about a victim twice. Okay. What about your challenger? What is the primary spiritual gift of your challenger in this? And as I say, this might be a somewhat illegitimate power structure or something like that. Praise. Okay. At the very least, the people that you're dealing with are very good with the gift of the gab. They're very good at beguiling and bringing people in. Like with the fame, they could be very good at drawing the precious person, the precious energy or whatever towards, here's all the things we'll give you, here's, we can give you the world, blah, blah, blah. So they're very manipulative. They may also have a very strong connection with a spiritual entity as well, with praise. That might give them some strength as well. So interesting. Okay, then what sort of skill or spiritual gift grows as you go through this? Release. Yeah, it's release. You're being released from I think, age-old commitment in doing this. Like it really does sort of feel like this is something you've carried through lifetimes, or certainly through this life, and you achieve it. Like I think it's a very good sign you achieve it, but because again, you don't have to learn twice. Let's have a look at the mythical creature energy. So what you're going in with. Sobek, okay, the alligator god, cycles 3 grand essentials to happiness in life are something to do, to love, and something to hope for. So maybe there's something about the power of 3. I did feel like there was Salem witch trials, something sort of a bit witchy about you. I think this is like, something to do, your quest, something to love, the precious, whatever the precious is that you're protecting, and something to hope for, which may be the release, having achieved what you do. So there's that sort of energy for you. What about this potentially quite manipulative, illegitimately powerful energy that you're kind of battling spiritually? Minotaur, destiny. Love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it with another. I feel one of the risks around this for some of you is this person may try and beguile you and become your lover. So that's something to be aware of because of what it's talking about there. But there is also something about destiny with this. I think this is a person or a group or something like that that's had power because they had their time. Their time is going to fall. It is going to fall. But you just have to protect the new ground, the new birth, whatever it is. But they are deeply embedded psychologically with the Minotaur, like in the labyrinth. They're a bit hard to fully see. You may not even be fully sure who's pulling the strings here. And they may send emissaries to try and seduce you. Then with the release energy, what happens at that point for you? Strength. You are stronger than it seems, braver than you believe, and smarter than you think. So I think, again, this is just a kind of, you are going to win this one. You are. So you will understand your strength even more at this point once that goes. Because this has been a learning thing, and you've been a victim sometimes, and you've seen people being victimized illegitimately, but the strength that you have releases you when you know, okay, this job is done. Let's see the angelic or other spiritual energies for each. So for the energy that you go in with, a guide around that for you is Goddess Lakshmi, prosperity, beauty, fortune. A lot of this is stardom, the precious sort of energy. There's a lot here about understanding when it's time for sort of success and what that's about. So there is something very material at stake here, and it's something that has a lot of potential. So she's there to help with that. But then you've got to deal with the challenge. What spiritual energy is associated with or supporting the challenge? Guru Ram Das, humility, spiritual practice, elevation with praise. I think the biggest risk for you around this is that the challenge for you is someone who appears to be spiritually aligned as well. And they appear to have a spiritual, like they're really pulling the strings behind the scenes, and the true energy is like the Emperor reversed and the King of Pentacles reversed. But there's something here, it's beguiling. They seem to be spiritually right. Now, your old soul energy will pick this up. And again, because you don't need to learn anything twice. But there is a risk here for you that the darkness that you're dealing with is quite hidden. And it may send emissaries that are kind of like, yes, this will help you, will support it. And they're not. It's like they send spies in or something like that. So it's just something to be aware of. The dark energy here, or the energy that you're trying to protect the precious thing from, might not appear as it actually is. Then the energy that is around, or the guide that is around you once you have achieved. Baba Yaga, okay, they're going to get theirs. Like when it comes down to your wild and wise woman, your old soul, destiny, the witch, there is something witchy about this. You will uncover them. You will uncover them. But that's the risk is at first. Be very careful who you trust during this is what I would say. They will eventually be uncovered. You will see it. And as I say, wow, they shouldn't have been doing that with you. But also once you do it, it's kind of like you kind of, you go, there's the outcome. This is what you've got to deal with. That's your karma now. That's you created your own destiny, and you can walk away knowing that you've protected what you needed to protect. Or you can take the thing that you've needed to protect and take it to the next level, depending upon what it is. Okay, let's get you some stars to guide you. 8th house, yeah. Very, very deep Scorpio sort of energy, and a lot of hidden stuff. You do need to be aware a lot of this is hidden, but as I say, you've seen this before, you know this cycle, and your own instincts will be very, very strong, particularly when they're tuned to protecting something. Jupiter, you are going to win, you are going to expand, there is luck around this, prosperity around it. So it's kind of like you're going in knowing you're going to win, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's simple. And Chiron, there's a healing energy that comes, which I think comes from the release. So beautiful. All right, so we now look at what is the archetype to sort of show your energy, your avatar, how it's sort of shifted over the space of doing this. So the archetype is the shadow. Okay, I think you've come to know the shadow better. So I do think there's almost like you have learned a lot, and you've experienced being a victim or seen victimization, all of that kind of stuff you really have, and you've got something very precious now. You're going into all your instincts. But this is a particularly tricky energy to deal with because it appears to be one thing and it's something else. You have an even heightened knowledge, and remember, learning is one of your things, about what the shadow is. You know what the shadow is, and you kind of carry it with you, not to become the shadow, but because, as I say, you don't need to learn twice. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I think you are meant to be a protector, but I also think that you're meant to protect yourself. And I almost feel like you protect something here and you are released from a contract that you did that. And then it's like you've understood the shadow and what's happened. And then you are meant to go and find your own thing and carry this with you so that you also protect yourself. I think that's what it's saying. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Hermit, which we have there. We have 2 of the Wild Unknown archetype cards plus another archetype deck to give me a bit more of a sense about what is your spiritual avatar, your spiritual sense. We have another card from the Wild Unknown archetype deck, which will be the outcome of going through this process, like you were going through this game. So we'll see what that is at the end. I think with this one, there's something at the beginning or somewhere where you are at the moment around the dark night of the soul. And let me explain why. It's not just because there's numb there. It's actually quite a nuanced thing around the dark night of the soul. The reason I'm saying it is a combination of the heart, numb, the mystic, and the hermit. And the reason being, the way the hermit is portrayed here, see how they're in a vast library? And that matters for this, which I'll get to. But they're seeking the star, they're seeking the wisdom, they're seeking the divine, they're seeking the connection. Very internal. The heart and the mystic is essentially within any religion or spiritual group, the one that is most trying to be connected to the divine. Not necessarily, to be a spiritual seeker or, to have some sort of spiritual task in the material world, that the main yearning is towards the heart, towards the divine. And numb is interesting there because people talk a lot about the dark night of the soul, and they talk about it like being, I went through all these dark nights of the soul where I felt bad or depressed or a bit spiritually lost. And colloquially, that's fine. That's a way of looking at it. But the real genesis of the concept of the dark night of the soul is a mystical issue. It came from St. John of the Cross. He wrote a poem called The Dark Night of the Soul. It likens the mystic wanting to join with the divine, similar to how a lover wants to join with the beloved. And that is why it is quite often that in mystical traditions, the divine is called the beloved. The issue about the dark night of the soul is no matter how much the heart is yearning that, no matter how much the person is a mystic, no matter how spiritually they've operated, you can't in the material world become one with the divine because you're in the material world. So there's always a kind of point of separation, a point of yearning. And it's also similar, like psychologically within, there is a part of us that wants to connect with and be in a collective, and there is a part of us which the ego is individual, and we want to be individual. And this is probably spiritually one of the most difficult things to deal with, because it is both a yearning that is impossible, but it's also impossible to ignore. And within us, when we're trying to work out our relationships with people, the part of us that desperately wants to be loved and to love and to have a community also wants to be an individual. And we have to deal with that on a psychological level as well too. So I think that there's something about that. And there's a great deal of wisdom that you're going in, and a great deal of natural mysticism, but you are experiencing that issue. And I think there's a clue, because I think this is why I was pointing out that there's a vast library here in this. I think that Spirit's really pointing to that with these two. Like the numbers about the energy of the dark night of the soul, but we're talking about air, thought, books that you read, and Virgo, sort of like the evidence, the structure, the sort of materiality of things, the integration of things. So again, integration of the spirit and integration of the physical. So I think this is talking about, it's a very internal journey. I think it will have its own challenges, and we are going to look at that. But I think this is about, if there is a particular thing that you're working through at the moment, it's that you might have a lot of the theories, and you might have done a lot of study and a lot of understanding, lots of systems, but it's not fulfilling the yearning in your heart. And so there's almost like that sort of sense where you have to let go of some of the intellectualizing of it and some of the sort of, psychological integration, and just feel into it, because it's not going to necessarily, the two can't necessarily come together. And you have to understand the yearning, because there's a very deep spiritual thing that's going on there. So let's see how this plays out. So we're going to sort of start with tarot. We're going to ask a little bit more about your avatar. Then we're going to ask about what are the key attributes and skills that have brought you to this place where I think you're kind of balancing a great deal of knowledge, whether it's always in this life or whether it's been across lives, but there's a great deal of knowledge. You know a lot about this stuff, right? You really do. So all of that, but it's still not bridging the gap, and how the skills and so forth have brought you to there, and then what you're meant to get in the next step, like what skills or understandings are you supposed to get. So firstly, a little bit more about your avatar. The Fool, Death, Nine of Pentacles, Page of Cups reversed, Six of Wands. Okay, all right. For a start, you have a learner's mindset, and it's a good thing to have normally. And I think overall it is a good thing to have. So it's not to sort of say stop doing that. But I think that's where your spiritual thing starts. It's like, I'm prepared to go on the journey. I'm prepared to have the experiences. I'm prepared to start right at the beginning. So it's almost as though what's happening here is that you have a spiritual yearning, you learn a particular thing, it doesn't quite get there, so then you start another thing. And this might play out in your material world as well. It might be that if this is a metaphor rather than literally being a mystic, it could be that you have various skills, knowledge and learning, and you sort of build that, and then you feel it doesn't quite do what you want, so then you start again. So you're always starting again in a way, rather than maybe going into the full heart of it. There's nothing wrong with, as I say, a beginner's mindset. There's nothing wrong with a learner's mindset, but sometimes you have to make a decision about what you want to manifest almost, and that's the Virgo level. So I think you're right at this point where it's kind of like trying to understand, like that, like looking for a new system, a new way of doing things, a new spiritual path, whatever it might be. It's always very tempting because you're very curious. You really love knowledge. You're very smart, but it's kind of like there's got to be a decision to kind of build something and stick with something, because until you do that, you're actually shutting down the heart, and the heart wants to open up, but you're kind of living in your head. And like, speaking as someone who lives a lot in their head, I'm not saying that as a criticism, but this is causing you an issue. This is taking you away from what you're trying to do mystically. If you can do that, it's saying you have all the ingredients you need to be successful. I mean, you won't, if it is purely a archetypal dark night of the soul, you're not going to suddenly merge with the divine and be the divine on earth. Like, that's not how it works. But you will get as close as, damn it, you'll get as close as you can to something like that, and you'll have it more in your heart. So, but if it's sort of like something more practical, you'll find the path to victory. This is what this is meant to be. But it's like determining when is enough of the exploration and when do you kind of commit to something. So let's ask what sort of skills and gifts brought you to this point. Eight of Swords reversed, Two of Pentacles, the Hanged Man reversed, Seven of Swords. You know what? This is something that for most people in most lives would be a brilliant set of things, brilliant. But for you, it's actually the problem right now. Because what this is saying is that you're always balancing more than one thing. You're always sort of looking for the new way of thinking, the different way of thinking, and how you can build that strategically. It's like you really do feel, it's like, if you went into this, you found this magical library or the Akashic records or something, you went in and you read them all and that's all you need to do. But it's still stopping you making the decision. You're still trying to keep a number of things going. I think a lot of this is about, if you think about the divine as a singular thing, and the yearning to the divine is to become one with that singular thing, and you use that as a metaphor, this is about finding a singular thing rather than always having the escape clause, always being able to negotiate it, always being able to see the other side. I mean, these are wonderful things. These are wonderful things in life. But for some reason, it's numbing you out from what you're trying to get in your heart. It could be playing out that this is about love, and there might be two different loves, and you kind of like can see both sides and you can't choose. That's a possibility as well too. So let's see what you're supposed to get from going through this journey, where I think you get closer to understanding that it's not something that you can learn in books or study in a system. It's something that's in the heart. It's something mystical. What do you develop as a result of that? The Tower reversed. The Queen of Pentacles reversed. The Knight of Pentacles reversed. I think there is a very strong, because of the Virgo, I think Virgo's, there's two, obviously all the swords cards, the air is really important. It's kind of like the thinking and the materiality of this is numbing you out from the heart. So I think what you learn from this is that you don't have to do it all at once. And you don't have to burn down one or the other to get to it. It's more about a balance. But it is definitely saying that if you want to be a mystic, and I think that's kind of what this point is pointing to, or you want to be in your heart, you've got to move a bit away from being really concerned about the evidence and the materiality of things. This is in the liminal space. It's not going to be in books. It's not going to be in a system that someone else could teach you. It's in your heart and it's in the liminal space. So it's take it step by step, but that's what you have to do. This is the mystic's journey. I think this is what it's showing, in whether it's very literal and it's very much about your spiritual journey, or whether it's allegorical. It's like what you are wanting to do now in a relationship, spiritually, in a creative project or whatever, is not going to be achieved through more reading and more project plans and all of that kind of thing. It's going to be achieved by connecting with the divine, going into your heart. And the outcome may not be so important, like the material outcome is less important than this process. So let's have a look at the skills involved. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be starting firstly with your magical skills. We're going to be looking at what you're going in with. We're going to be looking at what the challenge is. And I think the challenge might actually be you, but we'll see, because it could also be someone else who comes into this to challenge you and to make you think differently. So we'll see. And then we get the skills that you have coming out of it. And we're going to have a look at mythological energies around it. And we're going to have a look at guide energies in each of those three things. So firstly, the skills, the spiritual gifts that when you enter this game and you follow your spiritual avatar to get to your heart and to your mystical self, I think, and to take away the numbness, the gifts that are most prevalent, nature, like getting to your true nature. Yeah, nature rather than all the books. Getting out of the library, getting out into nature. That's something that's in you, but it's almost like you kind of have moved away from it. So there's something here about understanding that. Also understanding your nature more generally. Then the gift of the challenger, if it is a person, or maybe this is the gift in you that you suppress. So it could be either higher self. Yeah, the connection to the divine. I think for you, for this group, you don't in this game, it's not so much that there's a challenger who's a person. I don't feel like this is sort of like, if it is a challenger, actually, it is your higher self, okay? So it's either your own challenge is that you are suppressing this for some reason, maybe not even trusting your own, anything that you get, you're only trusting, what's in books and what you can measure sort of with evidence. or your own higher self is your challenger here. Okay, and then the spiritual gifts that come out of exploring this, sacred space, yeah, getting to the mystical place, finding the mystical place. Finding that space that is sacred and outside of just the intellect and the material world, but is truly sacred. All right, so let's have a look at the mythological energy. So the gifts and energy that you're going in with. Wow, demon power. Obstacles are put in your way to see if what you want is really worth fighting for. This is the numb energy. Doesn't mean you're a demon, by the way. That's not what it's saying, but it's saying there is some shadow stuff here. There is some almost obsessive thing. Like if I think of like we talk about demonic possession, there's a thing that's called obsession, the obsession part of it, where you're kind of so focused on something that it ensnares you. So I think there is sort of something here about almost what are your demons? Facing your demons is important. And I think one of your demons is you want all this evidence and you want it to be in books and you want all of that. You're not just going to trust your heart. So I think that's sort of saying, understanding that when you go in is important. So then whether this is your own internal connection that you're fighting or whether this is your higher self trying to sort of push you along, what is the energy there? Fenrir, which is obviously a wolf god, kindness. Every act of love and kindness raises the vibration of the entire universe. Your higher self, I think, is trying to do an act of kindness. But I think you're kind of like, what goes along with this sort of energy is you're very demanding of yourself and you're just not going to believe something unless there's the evidence. And yet you are a natural mystic. So I think your higher self is trying to get you to be kinder. And I think, you might have a wolf guide. Okay, and then once you kind of get through this and you sort of see it, the mythological energy for you is Griffin, romance. You don't marry someone you can live with, you marry the person you cannot live without. So yeah, there could be for some of you, this could be about trusting love and not like looking for all the evidence and thinking it through and whatever and just going with your heart. That's possible if it's in that kind of material way. But I think this is also like falling back in love, as I said, like the mystic's journey, the divine is called the beloved. I think for many of the people who come here, you really are a mystic. This is what's going on and you need to understand the pathway of that because you're getting caught in the dark night of the soul. Okay, let's see the angelic or kind of divine guidance at each level. So for you going in, Archangel Jeremiah, reflections, dreams, visions. Yeah, maybe starting to trust those a bit more. I feel like you're looking. I mean, there is some utility to this, I have to say. If you are sort of someone who doesn't fully trust that and you're starting on this path, if you have dreams, visions, meditation, it can work to then look it up in books and systems because you'll start to see there's a resonance there. But I think there's a point at which you have to go, okay, now I trust that. I've done that enough times that I don't have to second guess it. And trust me, I've gone down this path. I do know what this sort of feels like. But I think Jeremiah there might be sending you things to give you information that you can verify so that you are feeling sort of strong enough to really look at this. Then the energy which I think your higher self brings in to push you towards this. Baba Yaga, okay, a witchy sort of energy. Wild and wise, duality, helping you deal with your demons, helping to clear that kind of thing out. Waking you up. I mean, waking you up. If you've had the dreams, then it's waking you up with a bit of a slap and going, now sort of see this for what it is. And then when you come through it, Archangel Sandalphon, music, Earth Star, answered prayers. There's something on Earth. There is a connection to Earth here, but it's a different pathway to it. And I think like music and so forth is a different way to connect to the heart, a different way to connect to the earth and so forth. The interesting thing too is Sandalphon and Metatron are the two archangels that were human beings. So on the kind of mystical thing, can you become closer eventually? Yeah, this could be saying that, in the next life or whatever, you could, if you really follow this mystic thing and you trust it and believe it, you could kind of go to that realm. That could be, and you get even closer to the divine in that way. So it's interesting that he's come up there. Pay attention to music too. It may be sort of something that really helps you get to the heart and helps you get past the mind and into the heart. That could be very powerful for you. Okay, let's get you some stars to guide you as well. Cardinal. Yeah, you're meant to initiate something, but you are meant to initiate a different way of doing things and a different connection. But I also think this is partly the thing you have to think about. If you're going to think about anything, pile 3, it's like Cardinal always wants the new. So it's like maybe the new needs to be the sacred in the heart, not the new system or whatever. So I think be discerning with how you use that energy. First house. Yeah, this is something about your connection and you. This is very personal. This is what I sort of feel, and it's like it doesn't feel like there's actually a challenger, and it doesn't feel like there's sort of someone you're protecting or something you're protecting. This is really about your personal spiritual journey. And opposition. There's something that needs to be balanced off. And it's, the dark night of the soul, as I said, the oppositions, the wishing to be merging with the divine, but also being an individual within psychology and relationships, wanting to merge with others, community or love or whatever it is, but also having your individual self and individual freedom. This is something that you're being asked to balance. It's the core of the dark night of the soul, and this is very, very personal. Okay, so having gone through this, what archetype are you then going to be displaying at the end of this part of the game? The flame. Oh, perfect. Perfect for a mystic. The flame, the passion, and all directed towards the mountaintop, towards the divine, towards the aspirational. This is a reviving of your passion, your heart and your passion. It is breaking you out of the numbness. It's breaking you out of the prison that you've created in looking just for evidence and structure into something that's more the sacred space. It's like the sacred flame. This is your next part of the journey where it doesn't hurt to have had all that knowledge and so forth. And it doesn't hurt to have verified, trust but verified. But you're reaching a point where now the passion and the heart have to take over. It's a very personal thing. It's very mystical. And I think it's going to be very, very successful. So I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share, I'd love to hear in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.